We are very, very close to a climate collapse.
I wonder if there really is a consumer of fashion, because we're not really consuming it. We're just buying it and then getting bored of it and getting rid of it.
Our love for fashion has helped create an environmental crisis. We manufacture more than 100 billion items of clothing every year, and there are already enough clothes in existence on our planet to dress the next 6 generations. Here in the UK, clothes are worn on average just 10 times before being discarded, and that's adding up to 350,000 tonnes of clothing sent to landfill every year. This culture of excessive consumption and extreme disposability is unsustainable. We need to change the way we consume clothes, and we need to find new ways to extend the life of the clothes we already have. Vanish, in partnership with the British Fashion Council, is shining a light on the new generation who are refusing to accept the way things are, and instead are taking bold steps to change all of our futures. From leading designers, innovative startups, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. They are proving that making an impact with the way we dress doesn't need to harm the planet.
One day I was in my kitchen and I was listening to an environmental scientist talk on the radio, and what he said was actually it was frightening, it was quite disturbing. And then everything really became a reality from that moment, and I just thought I have to act. What can I do to help, prepare future generations for the challenges that are probably going to lie ahead as well?
I began to have these realizations that the planet I thought I was growing up in wasn't the reality of what the planet was, and that we're now in a very precarious position. And then understanding the vast degree of how much the industry I myself was working in was affecting that situation.
Yeah, constant urge for like new things, like more.
We sort of treat them like a disposable takeaway carton.
The traditional fashion cycle used to work on 2 seasons, so autumn, winter and spring, summer. Now we have, in some cases, 50 to 70 trends being dropped over a 1-year period. So it's fueling just this mass consumption that we just don't need. And we also know that a lot of millennials and Gen Zs think that an outfit is deemed old when it's been worn 1 or 2 times.
The equivalent of like a rubbish truck full of clothes is incinerated or sent to landfill every single second. So in the time that we're chatting, it's like that is going to landfill and landfill and landfill and landfill.
Look at the disruption that the pandemic's brought, and that'll be nothing compared to what we could be potentially facing into with a climate crisis.
And if we don't innovate incredibly quickly, we'll just miss the gate completely.
We as actual clothing owners can think about our clothes as a resource, and how we can bring new life into them, to prolong their lives, to make them last longer so we're having to replace them less often, and just kind of looking at them and valuing them in a different way.
I'm inspired by 1930s, 40s mostly. I went through a lot of different styles, from pre-punk, kind of do-it-yourself, finding clothes and altering them, maybe finding a coat and cutting the back of the coat and going around the zip and creating this mad short coat. I started off from an artistic point of view and putting attachments like clocks and dials. But then I've got more interested in fabrics, and that led me to the style that I like now.
I remember as a child and teenager being very interested in my grandmother's clothes and just enjoy go to her room and open the dresser and try the gloves and try the hat. Fashion is always cyclic, isn't it? So in the 60s, there was a big revival of the 20s. So I guess that there was always people interested in vintage.
I always had hand-me-downs, always had clothes from family and friends. And so when we were in the States, I was wearing like boys' clothing because we had friends who were boys and they were bigger than me, so I just wore their clothing. And so I think it's been normalised to wear clothes that were other people's. This was a jacket that my dad got for my mum when she was pregnant with me. He's from the States, so I think it was like a classic American thing. It's like a men's jacket. It's very like big and oversized. It's still got like the stones in here. And I remember when my mum first gave it me, she was like, don't lose these stones, and I got rid of one. It's like starting to fray a little, but it's been on nights out, it's been to Birmingham for uni, it came with me to London, and I love it to pieces. There's like pictures of her kind of pregnant. That one, yeah, that picture. So I assume she must be pregnant with me there, which is quite special. It's great having like something where you buy it and it's like, cool. You have that like instant satisfaction. Whereas I think with like an item of clothing that's passed down, it's kind of like that idea of like if these walls could speak, like, you know, if this clothing could speak, like what's it seen, what's it done, where has it been? And I think it kind of feels like, I don't know, that person's with you, I guess.
Rather than telling someone they're wrong to buy in a certain way, we're just trying to show them that this still intrinsically has value in it. This is a recycled T-shirt. The first time we did a recycled T-shirt, I took a picture of this, my T-shirt, and made it and put it on that. So it's still, this is like, it all gets very meta. Down the rabbit hole.
We're on our way to Barnsley to visit Glass Onion Vintage. They basically process a load of vintage clothing that we use as a resource for manufacturing clothing. We normally give them a brief of the styles we're looking for, and as they sort through the clothing that they receive, they separate it off, and then that's what we use to cut up and make new things with. I found out a bit about Barnsley and the kind of textile fashion industry that was here before, and it's interesting that this is still something that exists here in just a very different format.
When I was at school in the late 80s and 90s, there was a stigma attached to having second-hand. People born in the early 2000s, they've grown up with vintage shops and online stores selling vintage clothing. It's part of mainstream. We're a wholesaler and retailer of vintage clothing and remade clothing and sustainable fashion. We processed around 20,000 kilos per week of clothing, and that's just scratching the surface of what's actually out there.
So it's completely deconstructed and cut as if it was like a flat fabric garment. So obviously constructing the collar, it's got some of the you know, branding from what it were originally, I think from the sleeve, and then we've got obviously put trims on it, so we've got reflective piping and different zips, which is also reversible. So then for the lining we'll use a shirt, and then we've got a sort of inner placket what's from actually jeans. So it's a good opportunity to put different fabric in as well and use up, you know, damaged jeans.
Here we go. This is Jaco when she first started to come to Fashion Factory in the early days, and this is her now. At London College of Fashion, yeah? Yeah. Yep.
When I made my first dress, I was only 8 years old, so it was just part of me, really, from then on. I decided to start a little fashion school in my house, and that's where Fashion Factory's classes started. It's just so nice to be surrounded by children and passing on such an amazing life skill, actually, and something that they get so much joy from.
I have a lot of people that know I do fashion and upcycling and stuff, and so lots of people have come to me asking, like, how do I start upcycling, what can I do? Which is a nice feeling that I can help improve the planet through multiple people and like teach other people, and hopefully they end up learning and teaching others, like a pyramid scheme.
I started shopping secondhand as a sustainable way to shop. That was charity shops and thrift stores, and I came across a huge problem, which was that I was finding pieces that I loved that weren't my size. And literally I was just like, great, so I want to alter them. I don't know how to sew. My mom doesn't know how to sew, my dad doesn't know either. And then also I didn't really know about local seamsters. I didn't know where they were, how much they were, if they were good. I am the founder of Sojo. We connect customers to local seamster businesses with an app and bicycle delivery service, so you can get your clothes fixed or fitted really easily.
I ruin clothes, I ruin trainers, I ruin clothes. But I do sew patches on them and I do repair them, and then I kind of like that. I like I said, think that's when it kind of becomes yours. And it's not like, yeah, I went to uni and studied fashion, but you can go on YouTube and work out how to like put another piece of fabric over the top of something.
We do quite a lot of proactive fabric sourcing where we're approaching other companies or other design studios who might have overstock or waste or off-cut fabrics.
I source fabric from like antique dealers, stuff that's like old, like stuff that people want to throw away, or they think, oh, this is like, you know, it's crap, or there's something wrong with it, or there's rips.
This is French Matisse. It's like a linen cotton mix. Must be like 1920s, maybe a bit older. The quality of this fabric doesn't exist. I mean, it does exist now, but not, it's quite hard to find.
One of the things I did at the time a lot was rugby laundry for our college and the uni rugby kit. You'd haul it down to the facilities in the basement of the college, which were awful, and then wait for the single machine out of the bank of 10 to become free, and then do the washing. And I decided at that moment, this can't be the solution. Oxwash is a truly sustainable laundry service. We wet clean everything. It's basically like the concept car of laundry, where completely different chemistry, the machines are modified and emulate hand washing. So it's like a super gentle, much more sustainable washing method.
This is about 3 days of use. This is full of hundreds of thousands of plastic microfibers.
A third of all ocean plastic is polyester and polyamide from our clothes, which, as you can imagine, is so small. God help us trying to capture that from the oceans. Much easier to just catch it when it's coming out the washing machine.
I took these photographs in Denmark of my niece and my nephew. So my nephew Viggo is just over there, and he's the one that pretty much inspired me to look at children's wear, or children as extreme users of fashion. So this particular garment grows from 9 months to 4 years. That's 7 discrete sizes, and it's made from a durable ripstop construction with reinforced knee patches. It's all non-toxic for children. And finally, it's made from recycled plastic bottles. This is a reset function, which we've built into the structure. So if you just tug it horizontally, it just resets the entire garment. And when it's being worn by the child, obviously they're moving around and everything, so it's constantly just resetting itself and kind of amorphous, which I think is really cool.
I started my Her journey 3.5 years ago now. I'd watched the massive boom of the sharing economy, and I really believed that the next logical step would be to rent your wardrobe. You can actually monetize your wardrobe, sharing clothes within the wider Her community. And on the flip side, you can rent amazing contemporary and designer fashion for around 15 to 20% of the RRP, so it's super affordable. There is no question that we need to slow fast fashion, and actually what we want to prove at Her is that you can have access to clothes without having to own them, and that's a big consumer shift but also brand shift. And I think one of the most exciting kind of innovations in our space is that brands are trying rental for the first time, and we're proving to brands all day every day that rental's not a tick box sustainability exercise, it is a revenue driver for a business, and that is the way that the world should go.
It's not a trade-off. You can be sustainable and a profitable, viable business at the same time.
Basically, it was my brother's birthday about 3 days ago, and this is a second-hand suit. Originally about 2.5 grand. We basically found it for £250. But it was too big for him, so we're going to buy it anyway, and then we're going to sojo it so that it can fit him, and it's like a tailored suit on sojo, and it's secondhand, and it's amazing. So me and my sister bought it for him, and it's just the best present in the entire world, and I'm very proud of it.
You can think about what you already have. It's a well-practiced verse in this area of fashion that the most sustainable clothes are the clothes we already have.
It's up to the consumer, I think, to think about what their responsibility is.
If I spend money on things, not that I've got any money at the moment, but if I spend money on things, I don't feel as fulfilled as when I actually make something with my hands or use my mind to reinvent something that I've already got.
Sustainable is something that is going to morph into something else. It's not going away. It's not going to end up in landfill or in the sea or cluttering up somebody else's country. It's going to go on as long as it can until it completely falls apart. And then no, even when it falls apart, it's still going to continue. Yeah, it's just going to be used and used and used. I think it's really important to sort of tune into, you know, how much effort goes into making something and creating something. There's nothing better than really creating it yourself. There are dresses which have been made out of jeans, and then we've patchworked the legs together to make the sort of full skirts on them. We've used bed sheets, which we've tie-dyed to make little jumpsuits. Pretty much everything that you see there has been upcycled by them.
Like, there was a kid on Instagram who'd like ripped his favourite pair of jeans of ours that we don't make anymore, and he'd like completely fixed them with like hand embroidery and stuff. Like, that's really exciting. And it kind of becomes like, you know, it becomes like their own little collaboration with our design, which is fantastic.
I see people buying stuff and I'm just like, you're literally going to wear that for like 3 wears and then that's it. Whereas, you know, you can get a really good basic thing that you'll wear forever and form like a key part of like every outfit you wear.
It's about owning less and buying better. So when we are considering a purchase, really think to yourself, can you wear that item, and are you going to wear that item more than 30 times? And are you going to have it in your wardrobe year after year, season after season? If you can't, then just really think before you buy.
That's the #1 thing, it's buying products that are going to last. That'll solve a lot. If you buy one really, really good shirt that is going to last, you can wear it for years, and then when you then recycle it, somebody else is going to be able to reuse it.
If you own less stuff that is vintage, but you really appreciate your things, you want to keep them going. So not only you will learn yourself to make the things last, but also you are contributing for little businesses and things that should carry on existing.
There is a thing about, I think, older clothes are just better made. But I think back then they were made less, you know? Like you bought less stuff.
It doesn't have to be this like crazy thing. It can just be like paying attention to be like, oh, what's this made of? And then, you know, figuring out that like if this thing is made of something that's not good for the planet, then maybe I'll just buy the other option, because there are other options.
I like to think myself as the present owner of this garment or this object, but I want to think that after me will pass to other person, yeah, and it will just carry on the history of it.
According to WRAP UK, extending the lifespan of one garment by 9 months can reduce its environmental impact by 20 to 30%.
I think people must be getting to the point where they realise they've got loads of clothes in their wardrobe and most of them they're not wearing, and that maybe we should start doing something about this.
I guess for me, it's a lot about not washing them too much. I often wash on like 30 or like a quicker setting just to use less water.
You can use special, like, I think they're called guppy bags inside the machine. You can even get special filters now so that the microfibers don't go into waterways.
Use less chemistry that is biodegradable, an eco-label. use less water. You know, you really don't need to use 50 litres per kilogram. It's nuts. You can use settings on washing machines that bring that down. The temperature is the absolute kicker. Increasing from 40 degrees to 50 degrees increases the amount of degradation of the clothes by up to 6 times, just 10 degrees.
I'm not suggesting that every single piece of clothing in the world should be made out of old clothes. That's probably not possible. I mean, it probably is possible, actually.
It's important to leave the world better than you found it. Oh my God, it's so cheesy, I can't say it. I don't want that in there. But it's how I feel, like, it's how I feel.
There is hope, and the more we talk to each other and the more we share our solutions, the more hope that there can be and the more positive movement forward we can make.
You need to take different approaches to different smaller problems and solve those one at a time and try to shift the course of this behemoth ship onto like a better path.
And then it probably gets darker as you go, because then that bit's kind of plain.
I'm not going to judge someone for buying socks or boxes from the high streets or whatever, but at the same time, I've had an education. I've paid to learn and to acquire a certain amount of knowledge, and in my mind it's just logical that I use that knowledge to do something different rather than doing things that already exist.
Areas of the industry are ready to change and are changing. There's so many different people working in it, there's so many different brands that are part of it, that will it ever all completely be carbon neutral, zero waste or whatever? There's so many different versions of what that could be.
10 years ago, you probably rented someone else's house for the first time. It's the same shift happening in fashion today. We know, and take it from me, that the moment someone rents once, they come back and rent many more times with us. So I think the scariest part of trying something new is just getting started.
Apparently, the second-hand clothes market is going to overtake the fast fashion market by 2028, meaning that people will be buying more second-hand than first-hand, which is crazy.
You can upcycle anything, you know. If you've grown out of something, I've made plenty of my dresses or skirts bigger. It's not that hard to do.
It's just about showing different ways and showing that there's alternatives and interesting stuff to look in the past. And yeah, and just enjoy it.
You buy it, you wash it, you repair it, you rewear it, you repair it again, you rewear it again, and it keeps its life cycle.
We're just at that kind of inflection point where it's going to rapidly increase to the point where people are much more conscious of their impact. They wash sustainably, they buy sustainably, they use sustainable services that are truly, or at least very close to net zero. So I'm super optimistic.
If everyone starts upcycling like we're doing, then all of these fashion companies, they might try and upcycle the things that they've done.
I think the next generation are pretty scared, and our generation are pretty scared, so are all trying to take baby steps, but it relies on everyone taking those baby steps, I guess.